FM.
Your smart speaker.
And on BBC Sounds.
BBC Radio Scotland.
It is 24 minutes to 6. You're listening to Drive Time with me, Martin Geisler. A ban on drivers parking vehicles on pavements has come into force today in Edinburgh. Motorists face a fine of up to £100 if they break the rule. It's designed to stop vehicles obstructing pedestrians. Let's speak to Edinburgh City Council's Transport Convener, Labour Councillor Scott Arthur. Hello, Councillor Arthur.
Good evening.
You've been campaigning for this for ages. What exactly is the problem here and how acute is it?
Well, I think we surveyed the whole of the city, around 5,000 streets, and we found that it was a significant problem in 500 streets in the city and a sporadic problem elsewhere. And I say problem, what I mean is if you're in a wheelchair, have a visual impairment, or are just a parent or a grandparent pushing a buggy, parked vehicles on the footpath can be either inconvenient or dangerous. So it's just about what we're trying to do is create a more equal city.
How are they dangerous?
Because they're blocking the footpath, and means that people have to go on the road to get around them in some settings. So completely unacceptable. I mean, I was speaking to a lady this morning who has a guide dog, and she was talking about how when her dog has to go on the road to get around a car, she has no idea what's coming towards her on the road. And I mean, I just can't understand what that must feel like, facing those kind of risks. So it's completely unacceptable. So I think it's right as a city. I mean, the consultation we ran last year showed that Edinburgh residents support this. So I think it's right as a city. We stepped up and showed leadership on this and created that more equal city.
Yeah.
And I hope other towns and cities right across Scotland follow us.
OK, well, I mean, you're trying to stop the block. And look, you give a very good and persuasive example there. You're trying to stop the blockages on the pavements. There is a counter-argument, isn't there, that these streets were built at the time of horses, and now they've got to contend with not just two sets of potentially big 4x4s coming down each side, but also trying to park on each side of the road. There's just not enough space. Vicky Watson is a Portobello resident. We're speaking to her. She's lived there 17 years. She quite likes the idea because she's frustrated by what happens on the pavements. But there is a broader concern that Vicky and others express, isn't there? That if you push everything onto the road, you really create a bottleneck there, and maybe even, emergency vehicles can't get through. Here, let's have a listen to Vicky putting that point probably more eloquently than me.
The problem is that if people don't park on the pavement and they are going to get charged £100 fine for that, then the roads are just going to be completely blocked. We're not going to be able to get even normal family-sized cars down without delivery drivers and emergency vehicles, which is the main crux of the situation. But what we do want is guidance, and we want some kind of ruling about how this is going to work.
Right, I told you she'd be more eloquent. How do you answer that?
So firstly, I mean, I think you talked about giant 4x4s there. So if you're struggling to park your giant 4x4 on the road, Martin, I don't think parking on the footpath is the solution. I think both are illegal, and the highway code is very clear that you shouldn't be doing it. So what residents in Portobello are asking for is not the ban to be lifted there. What they're asking for is, I think, in most streets in the city, people have come to an accommodation where they only park on one side of the street. And that's not fallen into place in Portobello quite yet. And so I think I've been contacted by another Portobello resident today who's asking for WL lines to be put down one side of the street so drivers know which side they should park on. And, and if there's real concerns there, and if that's the solution to the problem, that's what will happen. Are
you trying to persuade people in a roundabout way to get rid of their cars here? You've got too many cars and not enough street, haven't you?
Well, I mean, I own a car, so it'd be a bit hypocritical if I was asked people to get rid of their cars. The city, I mean, the Scottish Government has a target to reduce car use, not car ownership, by 20%. In Edinburgh, it does have a duty to contribute to that. So, yeah, we're taking various steps towards reducing car use. I don't really think having people park responsibly is part of that or will have anything more than an incremental difference. But yes, as a city, we do want to cut congestion, accommodate growth, and also reduce emissions. And so reducing car use is part of that, alongside investing in public transport, I have to say.
All right. Well, listen, I'm not going to let you away without asking you about another great issue of Edinburgh residents' dismay at the moment. You're trying to make the pavement safer. How about making the roads safer? Potholes. And with that one very word, I will have got half of Edinburgh nodding. Sunday Times yesterday, 21,048 potholes. 21,048 potholes reported in Edinburgh last year. 30% up on the previous year. 24 potholes per mile. Conveniently, I've done the maths here. A pothole every 73 yards in Edinburgh. And listen, it's not just you on the hook here. All of Scotland, pothole reports up 31% last year, 46% on 2019. What is going on with our roads? They're unbelievable at the moment.
Well, I think first and foremost that says a lot about the funding of local government, and of course Edinburgh is Scotland's worst funded local authority. So I inherited a situation where road and footpath maintenance was grossly underfunded in Edinburgh when I became transport convener. I think £6 or £8 million underfunded, if memory serves me right. So last year we added an additional £11 million to that budget to catch up. This year we'll resurface about 600,000 square metres of roads and footpaths. So that's double the pre-COVID level of activity. But all we've managed to do with that, Martin, and I say this without great confidence actually, is halt the decline, because I do know that there is much more to do.
You demonstrably haven't.
Sorry, Martin, sorry.
You demonstrably haven't faltered the decline. The pothole reports are up 30%.
Yeah, so I accept the situation's unacceptable, and I'm not happy with what I see on the footpaths and on the streets every single day in Edinburgh. I'm absolutely honest with that. Our data does show that, our data shows that there's been a slight improvement, and we're about the bottom. We're below average in Scotland certainly, but we're not at the bottom. I think there's about 10 or so local authorities.
That doesn't help the people who are going over their bike handlebars, does it?
But accept that the situation in Edinburgh isn't good enough, and that we need a few more years of investment at that level to catch up with some of the damage that was done when this budget was cut under the last administration. If
you were a betting man, Councillor Arthur, would you suspect, given the restrictions you've got to work within, and you make a very persuasive case there, would you expect that next year there will be even more potholes than there are at the moment?
So what we have to do, Martin, let's hope there's fewer potholes, but what we have to do...
Well, if you fill them in, there will be. If you don't, there won't. So what do you think?
So what we have to do is that extra £11 million this year, what we have to do is find a way to maintain funding at that level. So we have to catch up, because there's so many roads in Edinburgh that are at a tipping point. Some are beyond that tipping point, of course. So we do need to keep the road investment at that higher level to catch up. The council officers here do a fantastic job analysing the problem, but of course they need resources. And I think they're saying that right now, just to keep things as they are, so maintain the current condition, we need £8 million per year. So that means in the coming budget, in a few weeks' time, my job is to find money to take it beyond £8 million so we can start recovering the situation.
All right.
But it goes back to what I was saying just a second or two ago. Edinburgh is Scotland's worst funded local authority. And that's the constraint we're working within.
Yeah.
We really need change here in terms of how seriously the government takes local government and and roads are a great storyteller for actually the underlying state of local government finances. You can see visually the impact of cuts from the Scottish Government and also the UK Government, what they've had on local governments.
Well, they certainly get everybody talking. Look, it's not an easy job. Nobody said it was going to be easy, but yeah, you're right. Roads and potholes are a real barometer of where we are at the moment. Look, there's a lot more to talk about on that. I'm sure we'll talk about it again. Labour Councillor Scott Arthur there, Edinburgh City Councillor's Transport Convener. Thank you for that. The time now exactly 5:45. A jury has been told that